Welcome to another episode of Six Figure Secrets for Fractional Experts. My name is Bradley Jacobs. I'm your host and the founder and CEO of Mylance. Today, I'm joined by Lasada Pippen, a former engineer turned keynote motivational speaker and business coach. He helps entrepreneurs avoid the 6 core failure points that cause most small businesses to struggle. He's in Atlanta with his wife and 2 kids. Lasada, welcome to the show.
Absolutely, Bradley. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here, man.
Awesome. Excited to have you. So give us a little bit more context than what I already shared of where were you? Where did you come from? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Most of the time when people hear former engineer, computers, tech, all that kind of stuff, they wonder how in the world did you go from that to keynote and motivational speaking? And I always tell people it was actually an interesting journey for me. So I did computer engineering for a little bit over a decade, actually. And I didn't leave engineering and technology because I had a bad boss. I didn't leave because it was a bad job. I didn't leave because it was bad pay. The one thing that drove me to leap into keynote speaking and coaching was one word, which is purpose. I left for purpose. That was something always tugging at me while I was in corporate America, and I just couldn't shake it. And so it got to a point to where I couldn't juggle doing both anymore. So I needed to make a decision. And I said, you know what? I want to go after what I believe is my purpose and what I believe I'm sort of called to do per se. And so I went at it full time, man, and haven't looked back. But it's been an interesting and a fun journey for sure.
One thing that I hear from so many people, especially ones that, when they're in that corporate world and then they want to go out on their own, and especially speakers and authors and, big time coaches, there's that imposter thought, the imposter syndrome of, do I have what it takes? And am I really going to impact people? It holds a lot of people back.
Totally.
And I'm curious to what extent you've navigated that, dealt with that. How have you overcome that? And was it there for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely there for sure. And this is sort of where I have to credit my wife. She was the one who was pushing more than I was. And I remember feeling one day, I was like, man, I feel like a total loser that somebody else is pushing me towards my dream versus me clawing and fighting towards my dream. And so I remember having that feeling one day, and I remember she just stopped helping me one day, literally. And we laugh about it now because she would tell me that, hey, I stopped because I didn't see the passion. I didn't see the fire. I didn't see the fight. And I felt like I was being too pushy and pushing you more to do it than you were wanting to do it yourself. And when I look back over that, Bradley, I just realized that it was actually fear. It was fear. It was imposture. It was, why would anyone listen to me? What value do I bring? What do I have to offer? It was all of those things playing in your mind and your thoughts, and they literally keep you on the sideline. And I had to navigate that, and I leaned on my wife heavily and told her, I said, hey, give me the keys back. I'll take the keys and I'll start driving from here. And yeah, I had to navigate that mentally, internally, build up confidence, self-esteem, all that kind of stuff. And just believe in the process, believe that you are actually valuable and that you have something to offer.
So I'm curious about this because it sounds like she was pushing you and that kind of made you feel insecure, right? Of like, I need this external force. But then you're like, okay, or she just stopped. And then did that give you then permission to ask for support in the way that you wanted it? Like, how did that go?
Well, it was more so that when she stopped, I realized that nothing was going to transpire. Nothing was going to happen. I realized that she was pulling all of the weight. And I kind of had an epiphany with myself one day. I kind of sat down. I was like, why is she pulling all of the weight for what I want to do? This is one of my dreams. This is one of my goals. And why is she pulling all of the weight? And so when she stopped, it kind of shined the light on me and was like, dude, you're just sitting on the sideline. Dude, you've been a total loser, dude. Like, if nobody's pushing or cheering you on or encourage you to do it, what, are you just not going to go after it? And so that was kind of the light bulb moment for me, was when I realized that she stopped. I didn't want to carry the feeling of someone having to push me to do something that I wanted to do anyway. It didn't feel right. It just felt so weird having somebody to push you to do something that you want to do, that you hoped for and, would think about and daydream about all day. And, you got these opportunities in front of you and it's like, yo, you're not even taking advantage of the opportunities. And so,
Right.
yeah, that was the feeling was that you don't want it as bad as you say you do. Until she
Yeah.
got out of the way, that's when I was able to realize that it's like, oh, I'm the problem, not her. It's me.
Yeah. I mean, she
Yeah.
was a mirror for you,
She
right?
was. Yeah, she was. Yeah. Yep. She was a mirror. She turned the mirror around to me, not even knowing that's what she did. But that's exactly what happened. And so when I saw it, I was like, man, I didn't like the picture. I didn't like the picture that I saw in the mirror, and I didn't like the picture that would be produced in the future. And so I was like, man, got to get on it. Got to do better than this. So yeah.
So you were shown that fear was holding you back. And then you're like, okay, like we got to change something here. When that mirror was kind of after you got that glimpse in yourself, how did you overcome the fear? Because it's still there, right? It's not like it
Yeah.
went away. You just became aware of it, which is the first step to overcoming anything. But then what did you do to actually take that next step and do it anyway, despite the fear?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know where I learned this from, but I heard this thought one day, and I wish I could credit the person where I heard this. And the thought was simply this: is that you can have fear, but you can't have doubt. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, man, this is a light bulb moment for me. So what I realized is that it is okay that fear can also coexist with your force, with your passion, with your purpose. Fear can coexist with this thing. And I realized that if I sat around and waited for fear to go away, I would never make a move. So I had to do it with fear. I had to lean in that, what, fear is just going to be on the passenger side and we'll figure it out as we go along. And it eventually subsides because you eventually build self-esteem, you eventually build confidence, and you eventually realize, like, oh, wow, I do have worth, I do have value, and so forth. And literally for me, it was just taking a leap of faith, like just jumping out. I was like, you know what, hey man, I just got to do it. So I put in a 2-week notice one day and I said, hey, no going back. I burned all the bridges. I burned all the boats. There was no way back. And so, but I did it with fear coexisting with me. It's not that it left. So, and there are even sometimes now that even, there are moments to where I have fear, if I'm stepping on a huge stage and, it's a totally new audience. Sometimes there is fear there, but I realize that, what, I've been doing it with fear this long. It's no different now. And I convert that fear into excitement and go forth and rock. You know what I mean?
How do you convert that fear into excitement?
Well, because I realize that it's an opportunity. I'm like, hey, why are you fearful of an opportunity? This is a great opportunity. This is something you've always dreamed of. You've always imagined. You're built for this moment. You're ready for this moment. And so take advantage of the opportunity instead of being afraid of the obstacle that is there. And so you turn that around and that becomes excitement when you look at it from the lens of an opportunity versus, hey, this is an obstacle that I have to navigate or hurdle. So
Yeah.
you just look at it through a different lens pretty much.
Yeah. I love noting that that fear doesn't go away, right? You do it despite the fear. And that's actually what courage is,
Yeah.
right? Courage is
Yep.
doing it anyway. When you have the fear and saying, I hear you, fear, I got you, and we're going to do this anyway. And
Yep.
that's what true courage is. And I think every single business owner has navigated that. There's no way, unless you're literally like, just don't have that. I mean, everyone does. You just absolutely have to. Of like, you're putting yourself out there. There's some fear of rejection, of judgment, of criticism, of all the things. And the only way to navigate it is to do it anyway. I mean, I know I've faced it myself over and over and over again.
Yeah, no, totally. You're absolutely right. And, I think honestly, when you sit down and think, and I would think a lot of leaders, CEOs, I would think a lot of them probably go through this thought process is that when you sit down and you actually think what's in front of you, you start to question yourself. At least for me, I did. I had so many questions about myself. I didn't have the background of motivational speakers. I didn't have past business owners. I didn't come from that, so I didn't have a blueprint per se to look at, to observe and say, oh, this is how you do that. I had nothing to really lean on. It was literally, having to dig in and having this unwavering belief in yourself and what you bring and accepting your uniqueness, which is another thing that you go through, is that you compare yourself to other people like, oh man, this person is so good. That person is, killing it and crushing it and so forth. And you start to compare yourself to this other person, but you got to embrace your own uniqueness and go through it that way.
Yeah, I love that concept because how many other, we have lots of fractional CMOs, for example, that listen to this,
Yep.
that are in our community, and they're like, damn, I'm just another fractional CMO out there. There's millions of us. And I'm like, yes, and you are the only one with your unique set of experiences and skills.
That's
The
right.
only one, right? And when you embrace that and use that as your differentiating factor, it doesn't matter how many other fractional CMOs are out there. But if you
That's
just think of
absolutely right.
yourself as one of, you are the million, everyone's the same, then you take that mindset forward. And yeah, it's going to be impossible to differentiate yourself with that mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I had to find, Brad? I had to find the smallest thing that differentiate me as a speaker, as a coach. I had to find the smallest thing because you're right. As CMOs experience, it's the same thing in the speaker world. You feel like there are so many speakers, there's so many experts, there's so many people who's going after this path or who's in your pool per se. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not in the pool. Even though there's a lot of people in the water, it doesn't mean that I'm in the same pool. And so I had to find the smallest thing that makes me different. There's some people can say the exact same thing, but it can sound totally different.
Yeah.
And that one factor can be what makes you different. Oh, I like the way Lasada says it, or Bradley says it this way. I want Bradley for this, because Bradley says it this way, even though it's the same message, but there's something different. There's something unique about you that you got to lean into. Yeah, absolutely.
What was that thing? Like, you said you had to find the smallest thing that was different, that made you different as a speaker. What was that thing?
Yeah, for me, it was energy. It was,
Mm.
I would get so many people afterwards like, oh my gosh, I just love your energy. Like, wow, your energy is amazing. Wow, you have such dynamic energy. And I realized like, hey, I might not say the best things, or I might not say the most wisest, mind blowing things, but I always come with something novel. And my energy, I always say this, it's unmatched. My energy is unmatched. And so I realized like, oh, that's what makes Lasada LP is that energy right there. Nobody can produce the energy like I do. Yeah, they can be dynamic and all this kind of stuff, but it's going to be different than Lasada's energy.
I mean, what a cool example, because it's not necessarily the most tangible thing in the world, right? It's
It's
not like
not.
you had this experience that made you be able to talk. Like, I think everyone, when they think about what needs to be different, they're thinking this like big experience, their skill they have or whatever. And it's like, or I had to work for Elon Musk for whatever. It's like, no, it could be energy. It could be just how things land. It could be your vulnerability. It's an infinite list of things that could be different.
That's right. And think of it like in a simple football analogy. I love sports, right? So I grew up running track and playing basketball, but I love watching football and so forth. So if we just use a simple sports analogy, right? 32 NFL teams, there are 32 NFL quarterbacks, right? We can say that Tom Brady was the greatest quarterback to ever play football, right? Tom Brady was slow. Tom Brady could barely move. It's not like he had a cannon of an arm like a Brett Favre or a Dan Marino or something like that. So, but why was he the greatest? Is because he found what made him unique. He found that it was between the ears for him at the line of scrimmage. This is what makes me great. This is what I can process faster than anybody else. Maybe other quarterbacks, they're great also. They got a cannon of an arm. They can scramble. They can move around. They can run a 4.340 or whatever it is, but they don't process the way that I do. And so if you find that thing that makes you unique, that makes you different, that is game changing, man. That is game changing in any market, any field that you're in. If you find what is your uniqueness.
And somebody else in Tom Brady's shoes who gets picked, in the seventh round of the draft, right,
That's
would
right.
be down on himself and like, shit, I don't know if I'm going to make it or
It's
whatever,
totally.
and he was the opposite. He's like, I'm going to prove all you guys wrong,
That's right. That's right. I
right?
love that, man. Yeah, that underdog mentality, right?
Yeah, because and honestly, I think everybody probably feels like an underdog going into the business world as a solo. You
Yep.
probably feel like the odds are stacked against me to win. And
Yep.
frankly, I think they are, right? Like the odds show most businesses don't make it past 2, 3, 4, 5 years,
That's right.
right?
Yep. They fail.
So
Yep.
they fail. And I think honestly, the only failure is giving up. Like I'm a big believer in that. Like you have not failed unless you've literally just given up and gone back to whatever you're doing.
Yep.
But the odds are kind of stacked against you because of it's challenging. Like all of
Yep.
these things that we're talking about, and I love that we're hitting on the softer side of the business world and the emotional side and the imposter thoughts that come along with it and differentiating yourself. And right, there's all the tactical stuff. We talk about that a lot on this podcast because people love
Yeah.
that, but we don't really talk as much about what is the experience emotionally like to put yourself out there amongst a sea millions of people that are trying to do it too and finding your world that's successful.
That's absolutely right. Yep. I want to give you two lines, Bradley, that have been powerful for me. One that I created on my own, and then two was by somebody very famous, very popular, Albert Einstein, right? He was asked one day, hey, would you consider yourself the smartest person in the world? And we all believe that Albert Einstein, super smart guy, we believe that he's a genius and so forth, right? But his words were astounding for me. His words were simply this. He said, it's not that I'm the smartest person in the world. He said, I just simply stick with the problems longer. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that is mind blowing. So he himself even experienced like, no, I'm not the smartest person in the world. No, I'm not a super genius. But because I stick it out longer, it means that I will probably succeed more than most. Because a lot of people will quit. A lot of people will stop. Like you just said, that's the only failure is if you quit, if you give up. And so when he said that, I was like, man, that is mind blowing. That's absolutely amazing. If you just stick it out, you can actually make it. You'll eventually make it. And the other line was just simply this: is that I realized that you don't have to be the best in order to give your best. You do not have to be the best to give your best. You can give your best every single day.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I also had a guest on the pod, and we were talking about essentially failing or we're really getting the no, getting rejection, right? And that's just part of going out on your own. That I think most W-2s, you don't really experience much rejection in a 9 to 5 corporate job.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And we were talking about if you knew your big break or the money or whatever it is was on the other side of 1,000 no's, how quickly would you get those 1,000 no's?
Man, you'll probably just keep going, right? You're probably trying to blaze through it.
Exactly. You're like, give me a no, give me a no, give me a no. Like, bring it, right? Like, let's go.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think what we're basically saying, like Einstein, they talk about this with Edison too with the light bulb, right? It was like, how many times did he get it wrong and get it wrong and get it wrong and get it wrong? And I think 99.999% of people would have given up.
That's right. That's right. You know what's funny is that, have you ever heard of Quitter's Day?
No.
Okay, so interesting. There's a dedicated day just for quitters. And it's the third Friday of January every year. I think next year is going to be January 9th or something like that. But it's the third Friday of every January every year. It's called Quitter's Day. And I think that is so amazing that they have dedicated a day just for the people that quit. Called Quitter Day.
I'm guessing it's a New Year's resolution thing for people that set all these big goals, and then like 2-3 weeks in, they're like, "Yeah, I'm done with this." Like,
yeah, they tie it into that, but I think it's beyond that a little bit. I think Quitter's Day is beyond just January. It could have been anybody. It could have been Thomas Edison, just like you mentioned. He could have experienced a Quitter's Day and never made that light bulb. Think about Vic's formula 666. People always wonder, where did they get this number from? Well, it took 666 times for them to get a formula correct. And now they're Vic's formula 666. 665 times ago, I'm sure there were so many times, so many opportunities, so many desires even to want to quit. But they persevered and they hung in there. They stayed with it.
Yeah. I mean, I experienced it myself. I've been wanting to start a business since I was pretty much in high school. And I would, spin up these websites and get a problem I was excited about. And every single time, whether it was like a few weeks or a few months in, I would stop. Like I would run into my first big hurdle in the business, and I just didn't persevere through that. And I would stop and I would stop and I would stop. So it was probably 12, 13, 14 times I got all excited about a business idea. Of course, bought a domain, spun up a website, all the things you like don't really need. And then I would stop. And when I started Mylance in 2020, I just told myself, I'm not stopping. Like, I don't care what it takes. I'm doing it. Like, I will just, and 5 years later, here we are. Like, I just committed to myself, no one else. Like, I am freaking doing this thing and no one's stopping me and nothing's stopping me. And it'll take different paths, and that's okay. I don't care, but I'm just not stopping.
Yep. I love that. Did you ever identify what were the blocks, or what was the thing that kept making you stop? Did you ever identify that when you launched Mylance?
I honestly haven't really spent time thinking about it. It just off the cuff with you, I think it's most likely the same thing that you were talking about early on, is just fear. It's like fear that I don't know what the hell I'm doing, fear of looking stupid, fear of failing. Like, I had always been successful in my life, and just whether it was like good grades in school or getting the job I wanted or getting promoted, whatever. And there's just nothing like going out on your own and putting your own name in front of it with no branding behind you, no one else behind you, and just like having it be me.
Yeah,
So
totally.
I think I was just scared, and I would use the hurdle as the excuse of, I can't get through that. But I think it was mostly fear.
Yeah. And that, you know what, that's interesting how fear, it doesn't matter where it stems from. Like, it's still the same fear. Like, what I just heard you say is that you were successful most of your life, from good grades to getting promotions and so forth. Whereas mine was the opposite, actually. I didn't have that type of background. I had to overcome the things to actually make it happen. But it's the same fear, though. So it doesn't matter where it stemmed from. You know what I mean?
And what's interesting in your story, and I'm curious to hear to what extent this resonates or not, for you, it sounds like you really had to earn every single thing that you got along the way.
Right.
Right. And so you built the muscle of, I'm going to go after, no, nothing's handed to me.
Yep.
Right. Because in business, nothing's handed to you. Right. So you start building that muscle, and then there's still fear. Right. But for me, I actually had a decent amount handed to me, and I actually had my identity tied to my success. And so the fear for me was, if I quote unquote fail, get rejected, get told I'm stupid, that actually feels like it's my identity and who I am versus this is my business separate from me. And so that felt terrifying at the thought of quote unquote failing, because it felt like I am the failure versus the business is not working out and I am separate from that. And that feels absolutely terrifying when that's the case. And that's a big thing I've worked through over the years, to separate myself from the business.
Yeah. And that's powerful, is that, and I think I knew this part early, is that who I am and what I do are two different things. Yeah. They're not the same thing. It's what I do and who I am. They operate in two different lanes. A lot of times what we do is we blend them together, and we do tie our identities to what we do and to whether we are successful or failure. And we take it personal. We bring that upon ourselves, instead of separating and segregating that out.
Yeah. Someone asked me, it was pretty recently, they asked me, they're like, what do you do, Bradley? And you're right, it's just an open-ended question. And I was like, well, I like to play sports, and I go to the gym, and I like to cook, and I like play with my dog, and I like all these activities, and I like to salsa dance. And they're like, they kind of give me this funny look. And I'm like, I know what you're asking me, but like, I am not my business,
That's
like
right.
I have other shit that I do, and I'm going to tell you about, I just thought it was funny. I'm like playing.
Totally. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to bring us back to, you were this engineer, you said you gave your 2 weeks, and you're just like, no back doors, right? Like, I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
What did the next few months look like for you to figure out who you serve, get your first clients, like get some money coming in the door? Like, that's the most terrifying part for so many people. Like, what's your story?
Yeah. It looked like hell. If I could describe hell, that's what it looked like for me. I was so scared, man. The thing is, so the way that when I made the leap, I had some stuff lined up in the pipeline, right? So that gave me the courage and the confidence. Was like, oh, if I can have stuff lined up like this, then that means it will continue. It would just continue to be lined up, right? That was so not true. I had a great month. I had 1 month that I made my decision on because I had a beautiful month lined up in front of me. And so I said, you know what, that's a pretty killer month right there. I said, yeah, let me get my 2 week notice and I'm out. After that, Brad, man, I probably didn't get another event or another booking until about 4 months after that. And so it literally was like I jumped, I leap, it's going well, it's going to continue this way, but then it just flatlined. It's just like it took a hard dip, and I was so scared, man. There were so many times to where this is how scared I was, is that I applied for contract jobs. So I was trying to go back. I was trying to get back in corporate. I was trying to swim my way back to shore. I'm out in the middle of this ocean. It's like, oh, it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And so I'm trying to swim back to shore. I mean, there was even jobs that I took. I took this job one time and I only lasted 2 weeks because I remember telling the guy, I said, man, hey, man, I need to apologize for you for taking this job. I actually took somebody else's place. I took somebody else's spot. I said, I don't have it anymore. I said, I'm not going to be the best fit. And I said, so I apologize for wasting your time and taking an opportunity for somebody else who probably would have appreciated this opportunity more. But I was so scared that I didn't know what to do because I couldn't see, okay, how am I gonna get booked? How am I gonna, keep the calendar full and so forth? And so I was so scared, man. And then it started to pick up again. And so there was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of mountains, a lot of valleys and so forth. And you just got to navigate and weather those storms. Like literally, I know we've probably heard that before, but you literally got to wait the storm out. It'll pass, and then get back out there and get on the grind. And so I went through that for probably a good solid 18 months when I first jumped out there, of just up and down feeling, just roller coaster ride. It's like, oh my gosh, nope, I don't want to do it no more. I want to quit. And so, but I outlasted it. So I have more endurance than my obstacles did. So that's how we got the victory.
Yeah. And it just goes immediately back to what we were just talking about, right? Of like, you just got to outlast it and just keep going and going and going. And doesn't mean you don't get terrified along the way and even take a W-2 job. And then you're like, actually, this wasn't right. This was my fear doing the talking. And I don't want
That's
this,
right.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And my fear won the conversation that day big time. I applied and I was like, yes, I'll do it. I'm gonna be a committed engineer and so forth or whatever. I got in there and man, I realized I was like, man, it's not me. I can't do it. I
Yeah.
can't make a decision out of fear like this. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I had to back out.
Love it. Cool. So it sounds like you had those moments and obviously you're here now. So you figured out the method, you figured out a way to get clients, to get speaking engagements, to pay the bills, to like bring money in the door. From a marketing business development perspective, maybe especially in the first like 2 to 3 years where you started to see that ramp up, you started to see some success. What were the most effective business development marketing efforts that got you clients, speaking engagements, all the things?
Yeah. So I did a ton of things, Bradley. Honestly, I did snail mail, I did cold email outreach, I did LinkedIn, I did videos to where I would just personalize videos to people. I went door to door. I did the whole driving in my car, go to this building, go in there, talk to somebody. I did everything literally, but what I found to be the most effective is the performance itself. And I realized that the performance itself has no competitors almost. And what I mean by that, so if I'm giving a speech, if I'm on stage, there's usually a decision maker in the audience. There's somebody there. And if there's not a direct decision maker there, then there's somebody who's close to a decision maker. And so if you go and if you are great at what you do, not average, but if you are great at what you do, that will begin to create so much noise that you won't have to hunt anymore. So I went from hunter to hunted.
Hmm.
That was kind of the transition for me. That's what worked the best. If I deliver dynamically, if I give great value, if I feed the audience very well, if I do that, then I will have people come up to me, hey, we run company X over here. We would love to have something like this at our company. Hey, I'm going to connect you with the CEO or the HR director or so forth, and we can talk about how we can bring you in. That has worked wonders for me. It's just about
Amazing.
simply crushing in your job, in your field, in your role, being as great as you can possibly be, and people will talk about you.
Yeah, no, amazing. I love that. And it kind of a lot of the people that come on the show are coaches or consultants, and they say basically the same thing a lot of the times. Like, be amazing with your clients,
That's
and
right.
you will never
Yeah.
be empty. Your books will never be empty, right? It's just like
Yep.
how it goes. From a marketing perspective of putting yourself out there, right? You mentioned a bunch of things. Which one of those was effective in at least getting your foot in the door with, so that you could then put on a great performance and get referrals and get word of mouth from there?
Yeah, totally. The door to door, actually going in the buildings. I would walk in schools. I would walk in superintendent offices. I would walk in corporate offices. I would just walk in the door. And when I first started, that was the only method that I knew. I didn't know anything else. So I leaned into what I knew, and I leaned into it heavily. And so I would walk into the door. And then another thing, and I don't know how people feel about this, but I was willing to give something away for free just for the opportunity, so that I could be recognized, so that I could be acknowledged or seen. And I believe that I was good enough to where, hey, if you just see me, if you just give me an opportunity, then I believe that we can make it and build it from there. But going
Yeah.
in the door, it's really old school, is because most people, is we don't meet people face to face as much as we used to. So me going and putting my voice with a face, with a name, it's easier to delete and toss out a piece of mail or an email versus, oh, that person actually showed up. I remember shaking hands with that person. I remember feeling that person. I remember how tall that person was. You see what I mean? Like, and so going in these places, walking in there, scared as heck, but walking in there, that's what created the momentum for me. And then I started to add all these other outreach efforts and marketing and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I mean, I think there's also just very few people that are willing to do that,
That's
right?
right.
Like
Yeah.
you stand out just by being willing to walk into a building and be like, I'm here. Like, someone talk to me. Like, I have, like, just
Yep.
people probably listening to this are like, damn, he did that. It's like, yeah, he did.
Totally.
And that's what it takes, right? You got to be willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do.
That's right. Yep. That's right. I have this saying is what I tell people. I say, hey, do daily what everyone else only does occasionally.
Yeah.
You do it daily. Everyone else is going to do it occasionally. They're going to do it when they feel like it. They're going to do it when they're excited. They're going to do it when their fear is not present. No, do it daily. Do daily what everyone else only does occasionally. And that is a total shift in mindset. And if you want something bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes to go get it. And so that was the stage I was in. I didn't have clients. I didn't have people knocking on my door. It's not like opportunity were flooding me. You know what I mean? Like you can't be demanding when you're not in demand. You can't do that. And so yeah, I had to walk in places. I had to face the possibility of rejection. I had to face the possibility of like, who the hell are you and why are you in here? All of those thoughts, But again, you got to do it coexisting with fear, and so that's what it was for me. Was literally walking in buildings, door to door, knocking on them.
Yeah. And what I really hear is, it doesn't matter how I feel,
That's
right?
right.
If my vision, if I want it badly enough, it doesn't freaking matter how I feel. I'm not going to listen to my feelings. I'm going to go after it because my clarity of vision, my pursuit of that vision is much more important than how I feel any given day.
That's absolutely right. Yep. Knowing what you want, being clear about what you want, and knowing what it takes to produce the outcome that you want. And for
Yeah.
me, I knew this is what it takes. This is what it's going to take, and so I have to do it. And my emotions have never guided me correctly, so it's hard for me to listen to my emotions when they're usually wrong.
It's funny.
So I'm like, because, I mean, emotions are like the weather, man. I mean, you can feel good. I mean, in the next 5 minutes, you may feel totally different than what you feel right now. Even
Yeah.
you and I, Bradley, like, you just don't know. So it's like, you can't rely on those feelings.
No, no, not at all. What did you give away for free?
Now, what we give away is we give away a 45-minute, 30 to 45-minute assessment, which is like a solution roadmap, what we build and we create for you. We give away a free assessment also. You can come into our coaching practice if you're totally confused about what do you want to do. I don't know my message. I don't know my audience. I don't know how to get paid. I don't know how to deliver. I don't know anything. You can take this free assessment that we have. You take it and we build a free solution roadmap for you. And you decide if you want to go forward with that roadmap or not. But it's totally free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Cool. Back in the day when you were walking into buildings and it was kind of early on for you, did you give away something for free then? And if so, what was it?
I didn't have nothing. That
Yeah.
was a funny thing, bro. Is that I didn't have nothing. I remember making these little flyers. I wish I had one to show you, but I remember making these little flyers that I had with probably some content and some copy on there that's totally irrelevant now. But I would walk in with a flyer here and there, but I didn't really have anything, and I think that's what made it really hard too. Is that I didn't have a demo video, I didn't have a highlight reel, I didn't have a reference. So what I needed the most, if I'm walking in there versus giving something away, what I needed the most was somebody to give me an opportunity. And if you give me an opportunity, then I could give you something for free. I could do the speech for free. I could, motivate and inspire your people. I can do this for free. I just needed the opportunity though. But I didn't have much to give away at the time.
Yeah. So did you do a bunch of speaking engagements for free in those early days?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. So when I was in corporate, I was also doing speaking. So when I launched, when I leaped on my own, I wasn't new to speaking, but I wasn't known. Nobody knew me. I wasn't discovered or anything like that. So for 6, 7 years, I was speaking for free, man. I never
6, 7
charged.
years.
Yeah, 6 or 7 years alongside my engineering career. I was using PTO. I was using my own money. I would get my own flights. I would use my own gas. I would get my own room, whatever it took. I was doing that for free. I never asked for a penny. And I think a part of that was probably because I was afraid for a long time. I didn't think I could ask anybody for money. And so, yeah, I was doing that for free for a long time, man. Put in the grind, Bradley. Like I've
Yeah.
put in my hours. I've put in the work, you know what I mean? To stand on stages now, I can look back and be like, I didn't take no shortcuts. Nothing was handed to me. I put in the hours, I put in the work, I put in the preparation, I put in all of whatever it's going to take to get me on these stages today. I put that time in, I put that work in.
Yeah.
I'm totally confident about that.
Yeah. So impressive. So cool to hear about the journey.
Yep.
It's a fascinating concept to think around because I'm always a big believer in don't work for free.
Hmm.
And you have to get the opportunity. Right. I totally see that. And I've shifted my mindset a bit on because like look, I'll offer a free consultation. I'll meet with a customer for free. I'll give them a LinkedIn strategy or I'll right. So I say don't work for free, but there's gotta be a foot in the door somewhere where you can legitimize yourself.
Yeah, totally. And even furthermore, like, is it only about the money?
Of course
Like
not.
for me, like it's kind of a rhetorical question, but for me, it's not just about the money. I genuinely want to deliver high value to you and your people.
Right.
I want to satisfy you. I want to satisfy your audience. I want to make sure you're completely happy. That's the last thing that I ever talk about. It's money. Is if you don't ask, I really won't tell. But most likely you're gonna ask. But yeah, it's just not always about the money per se. The money comes when you are sure with what you offer and the value that you bring. The money will come.
Yeah. And so then there's the person who's scared to ask for money because They're not used to it. They're not comfortable with it. Money makes them uncomfortable. Maybe deep down, they don't know if they're worthy of it. I end up pulling them the opposite of saying, ask for way more than you think you're worth
Yeah,
because
totally. Yep.
you aren't adequately valuing your output.
Hmm.
Right. And so it's a really interesting conversation because there's no perfect rule of thumb where like you're totally right. Anyone who's aligned with their purpose, it's not about the money.
Hmm.
And I want every single person on this planet to be being paid for the value that they bring.
Absolutely. Because if the opposite happens, that feels different. Like I've been to restaurants, I've been to grocery stores before, and even work with people, for consulting work. And sometimes it just feels like they charge you for every little thing. If you want an extra napkin, that's going to be $1, 50 cents, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter how low the price is. It's the principle that you're charging for every little thing. So to me, that communicates something totally different. That communicates, hey, I need money and I want to get all of the money I can out of you. I'm not really concerned about the value that I give to you.
Right.
And so I would rather approach it the other way. I'm in purpose, or I'm on purpose, I'm for purpose. I'm not going to work for free. That's not what I'm communicating at all. But I don't feel like I need to charge you for every little thing, 15-minute call, 25-minute call. Oh, I need to charge you for that. Like, no, why? Like let's have a relationship, we'll figure the money out later, you know what I mean? So yeah,
Right.
I just think purpose trumps money. And when you're in purpose, when you're working with purpose, you're going to make more money than if you're just working for money.
Of course. And that's the dichotomy of all of it is that when you actually, even if you really care about money, if you are able to put it behind your purpose and go after the things you love, are good at, passionate about, care about, the money's going to follow.
You make way more.
You just got to have it not be at the forefront of what you do because then everyone feels that and it feels gross, right? When someone just wants money from you, you're like, leave me alone, right?
That's right.
Someone
It
wants to
feels
add
weird.
value. Yeah, it's weird. But if you're just like, hey man, I just want to add some value to you, you might end up saying like, take my money. Like, I want to support you, right? Like,
That's absolutely right. Yeah. Now, if you're clear about what you offer, if you're clear about, you're sure, that you bring value and you're confident in that, say your price with confidence.
yeah,
Just kind of like you were just saying, like, yeah, like put a high price on there. It's nothing wrong with that. I think that's totally awesome. Put a value on there. It's just don't lead with that though. Don't lead with money.
yeah.
You know.
We get to wrap this up. Unfortunately, I could talk to you forever.
Yeah.
Tell the listeners if they want to work with you, if they want to chat with you, if they want to hire you as a speaker or a coach. Just a minute for self promotion of like really what you do, who you work with, where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Easiest way to find me is if you visit lasadapippen.com/coaching or lasadapippen.com/home. Either one of those URLs will bring you straight to me. You'll be able to see exactly what we do from keynotes to the coaching service that we offer as well. We help individuals who aspire to be speakers. We help executives with communicating a clear vision, a clear message for their corporations. And we also help professionals who want to have better communication skills because we know that communication skills can up your salary, can up your income by at least 20% by having communication skills. So we help craft, communicate, and cash in on your message.
Wow. So cool. Amazing. All right. Well, and we'll get those links in the show notes as well so people can find them. No problem.
Absolutely.
Lasada, so good to have you on the show. I love this conversation. I said I could do it forever, but yeah, just to really appreciate your time, your energy, and bringing your insights to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. This was awesome, Bradley. Enjoyed the conversation thoroughly, man. And like you said, this can continue on and on and on. So yeah, thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Of course.